Hey there, it's Julie Hutchison here from Think, Be, Do Leadership. And today we're talking about how you could be boring the board to death. No, what I really, well, you could be, and couldn't we all? But what we're talking about is how to be much more inspiring, much more interesting, so that we can get a yes for our big idea. We can get the cash injection that we want. We can move a project on and all of those things. But maybe you're here because that's not quite the case. So today we're going to talk about that. We're here live on our short training, Julie from Think, Be, Do Leadership. And if you're listening live, please just do say hello. If you're listening on the recording, then pop a message in and we can say hello too. Please tag me, because if you don't tag me, I might not get notified that you'll see it. And so, yeah, if you're here because you're thinking, God, I don't feel comfortable, or I don't get the results I want when I'm trying to convince people of an idea, whether it be you do want somebody to say yes to your project or get some money into the business or whatever it might be, but you feel like they're not listening to me, or they look bored, or they're tapping their pen, and you're thinking, I need to tell you more, and I need to speak faster, or I need to say more, or I need to do something to make people say yes, please, to whatever it is I'm trying to do. But you're feeling like that's just not the case. You don't know what to do to make a difference, and you don't know how to catch people's attention. Then that's what we're going to talk about today. Because if people are not listening to you when you are speaking and you are trying to convince them of something, if they are not paying attention, if they're bored already, then you're not going to get the result that you want. You're not going to get the money, the go ahead, or anything. And if it's your team that aren't listening to you, then even worse. They're not going to be able to hear what you've got to say. They're not going to take it on board. They're not going to buy into it, which means that you're going to work much, much harder trying to convince them, keeping on trying to push them into doing the things you want them to do, rather than them coming with you and voluntarily and with enthusiasm and motivation doing what you want them to do. So then, they're not getting it. And it may be, you want to talk about is that you're just not capturing their attention. You're not bringing a motivation to them of what's in it for them. And that's what I want to talk about today. Okay, so we might be boring them into submission instead of inspiring them into agreement, let's say. and I want to have a little play with the phrase, really, which is quality over quantity. You remember that. Less can be more, because sometimes what happens is that we try to give people more, even if it's on an email. It doesn't even have to be speaking up, but let's say it is, but it could be on an email, it could be on any kind of message, that we're trying so hard to make this work. Yeah, actually, the more we try, the less it seems to actually make a difference. If you've been there, if you've ever had somebody, my God, if you've ever had somebody yawn when you're doing a presentation, please say yes, because it's the worst when you think, oh my God, they're not even awake. But it can happen, and sometimes we think, well, I have no idea, because I thought, what I've got to say is important. It's right. That's the other thing. It's probably right. It's probably really, really important. And still they're not listening. And that's really frustrating. I don't know about you, but if people aren't listening when you know that it's right, and you know that they need to know it, and they'll need to know it to make decisions upon it, yet they still aren't getting it, it makes you feel like well, a bit of a failure, really, but also like they're just, God, like they could do so much more if they just listened. So what we're going to talk about is this quality over quantity, because something's going wrong. Something isn't right in what you're saying or you're doing, or the way in which you're showing up. And that's what I want to talk about. The three things that we're going to talk about is three pieces of quality are the quality of the cause, the quality of how you put it across, and the quality of how you're showing up. Because any of these three things, when you don't get them right, are going to make you fall flat on your face, because something will switch that other person off, or that team off, so they're not paying attention. They're not hearing what you've got to say, and then if they hear it, they're not taking it the way you want to take it. Make sense? Okay, good. So let's have a little look today at those three things. What do I mean? And obviously we haven't got time to, it's not a full training today. We're going to do about 15 minutes. But if this is something that resonates with you, then this is the areas that we work on our Communication Champions program, our 12-week course. And if that's something that you're interested in, give me a shout, message me, and we can talk about that in more detail. So today, quality of the cause. Let's start with that one. What do I mean? Well, the cause, what I mean is that Often we know a lot of detail. We know everything there is to know about, oh gosh, I don't know now. Some kind of computing thing or something really, really detailed. And so we start by giving people information. Now, the problem with that is that actually people need to be listening in the first place. Hi, Katie there. Nice to see you. So people need to be listening in the first place. And so what happens is the mistake that we're making is that we start off telling them the stuff that we want to tell them, yet we haven't got them to sit up like a meerkat and listen, because there's no reason for them to listen in the first place. Okay. And so it's like, okay, how do we put this across in what's in it for me? Why should they bother listening? And the minute they realize that it's important, then they're going to stop like that little meerkat, look up and wait for you to tell them the detail. But if you do that before you've got that buy-in, then it's like, like when you're in one of them, you're in a training session and everybody's gaggling away and you want to bring people back together. If you start sort of talking about whatever it is you want to do, you haven't got their attention. So you need to stop and get their attention before you start talking about the detail. So we need to look at the quality of that cause. And so what do I mean? Well, the cause is what's important. What's the point of what you want to say? What's the reason why you want to say it? And how does that relate to the people that you want to say it to, whether that's your team or whether that's your boss or an investor, and what's in it for them? Because the minute you can get over that cause, that your cause meets their cause, then suddenly there's a reason for them to listen. And at that point, then you've got their attention before you started. So we need to make sure that we're talking about the reason why before we talk about it. So it might be that you're saying, remember, Bob, where you said that we need to expand the business, and you get Bob's agreement beforehand, or whatever it is that you're doing, because you need to look at the reason why you're even talking about it. In fact, make sure you have a reason why you're talking about it, not just because, oh, this is right and it's interesting for me, but make sure that you can actually talk about what's in it for them, what's in it for their cause, and how do they agree with you. So imagine it's like you could be talking about, and I'm always talking about this actually, you could be talking about what car you like, and somebody else has a different opinion, and you can have this endless argument over what's good about your car and their car, but essentially they do the same thing. The cause of that is to get you where you want to go, or to get you, maybe you want to say get you where you want to go in style, maybe you can agree on it. But the minute you can agree on the higher purpose, then you've got somebody's interest and they want to go down that road with you. Okay, so that's number one, is that make sure that you've got a quality cause and that you're communicating it. Okay, and that's what we do in our communication training, because we don't just want to look at what you're saying, we want to look at why you're saying it. So the next point then is the quality of the way in which you're putting it across. Okay, now what do I mean? Well, you've got something super important, and let's go for Bob is sitting there looking at you. Bob and Felicity are sitting there looking at you, standard names. And they're like, yeah, okay, good. Right. Well, we know we need to be here. We know we want to hear this. But then suddenly you start launching in to all of the detail, all of the things that you're going to tell them. And you tell them everything there is to know about the thing that you want to tell them about, and it's endless, and you can see their eyes glazing over, and you see that yawn, and suddenly you realize that they're not getting it, they're not taking it on board, and you're thinking, well, what's going on here? And this is because we need to make sure the way in which we actually put the information across is, let's say, digestible. It feels a bit like you've vomited all over them when you give them everything. That's a nice visual, isn't it? But if you're vomiting over the people that you're talking about, then they aren't going to be able to, one, they're not going to be able to digest it. Two, they might be a little bit full on what you're going to be giving them, because there's just too much information. They've got to process it, they've got to work it out, and they can't do it because you're giving them all that information. Three, what was the third one? Hold on, they're too much, bit sick. They can't digest every single point. So we need to look at a way of putting it across that people can much easier take on each point. Okay, now if you think about it, if it's all linear and it's all just going on and on and on, that's really hard because we don't know where the full stops are. We don't know, well, full stops, but we don't know where the breaks are. We don't know where the points are. And so it's like for me here saying that there are three things we're going to talk about. Yeah. The cause, the way we put it across, and how we show up. We are pre-framing what we're going to talk about by chunking it into sections. And once we can get people to agree that those sections are useful, which we've done in this live, then we can talk about what's inside them. So imagine they're like little presents in that we're going to give you 3 boxes, but inside the boxes, there's something else. But we're going to tell you how wonderful the boxes are first. And when we do that, we are pre-framing what they're going to get so they can digest. Oh, there's 3 pieces of information. I really need to know these 3 pieces of information. And this is what we do on our program. We look at how do we talk about each of those 3 pieces, those 3 presents, those 3 boxes. And then how do I go back and explain what's inside the box? Okay, so we're giving people chunks at which to consume and digest information in a way that they can process really, really easily. Okay, so you don't just do linear, you do boxes, if that's the right word. Okay, and we call that chunking. We're chunking it down into the pieces, and we can use it in many other ways. But today we're talking about how do we get people to kind of understand the information that we're trying to get across in a way that they're like, yep, I get that. Cool, next piece. So they're not overfaced, they're not overwhelmed, but they have each of those pieces, they get them, and they're like, right, and I'm on for the next. The other thing they need to know about that is what's in it for me? What's in it for me to listen, keep going on what's in it for me for each of those presents or boxes that you're going to be telling them about. Okay, so all the way through. Always think about what's in it for me, not me, them. If that makes sense. Because often, the reason why I'll tell you that is because often we think about what we need to get across, but we forget what they need to hear and what's in it for them. Okay, so remember all the time what's in it for them. Okay, now the last piece is the quality of how you show up. Now, this might be for this particular meeting or for this email or for the way in which you show up for your team. And the reason I say this is important is because think about it. I could agree with your cause. Katie, if you're still there, listening there, I can see you there. I could agree with the fact that you truly believe that we should all be, I don't know, going on a holiday to Tenerife, let's say. And I might think, holiday to Tenerife, that sounds amazing. Yeah, I'm really bought into the cause. You can tell where my brain's going. Yeah. And I might think, well, she's explained it really well. She's split it out. She's given me all the details and I get it. And I know what the price is. I know where the thing is. And I know what the benefit of going to a holiday on Tenerife is. Great. Sounds perfect, doesn't it? Except for this last piece. And that is that if you don't show up in the way that is going to be palatable, let's say, for your team or the people that are there, the last thing is they may want to go on the Tenerife holiday because they think it's a great idea. They may understand what's all there, but they don't want to go with you. They don't want to go with you because of how you show up. So they might think, yeah, that sounds great, but I'll choose a different team, or I'm going to choose a different supplier, or I get that I need this, but I don't want it from you. And so we have to look at how I show up because we have to engage. We have to make a connection with people such that, yes, if you're, I don't know, if you're trying to sell them this holiday to Tenerife or you're trying to sell them, I don't know, radiators or whatever it is, an idea. Where's my mind going today? I don't know. Anyway, they may know they want it. They may understand what they need to do, but they may choose to go somewhere else. And it could be a job interview. They choose somebody else, even though you've got some great ideas. It could be that big idea you're going to the board with. It could be that money you need. It could be the promotion that you want or the pay rise that you want. But if they don't see you as part of that package, let's say, they think, oh, yeah, I do need to pay somebody more, or I do need to, it does make sense. We do need somebody in this role. But if they don't see it as you, because the way you're showing up is either negative or, I don't know, maybe you're the mood hoover in the room, or maybe that you're super nervous or you come across super nervous or any of these things, then they're not going to give it to you. They'll sell it, they'll buy it from somebody else, or they'll pay somebody else, or they'll invest in somebody else. Make sense? So they're the three things you need to think about: the cause, the way you put it across and how you break it down, and how you are showing up for them. And when you do that, when you get those three things right, then you're going to inspire people to either follow you, invest in you, pay you more money, or whatever it might be. And this applies to almost everything you talk about, almost everything. Well, in fact, everything, in my opinion, of what you talk about. And so, if you would like some help in applying those three principles, then that is exactly what we do on our Communication Champions program. And we are going to be running a brand new program very soon. And it's going to be a 12-week program with trainings and coachings together so that we actually take action. We actually try things out, have a go at them. And so if that's something that you think might be useful to you, if you think, you know what, I think I need to be better at these three things, then give me a shout, message me, and we can get you all the details. Okay, so thank you very much for your time. It's Julie Hutchison from Think, Be, Do Leadership, talking about how not to bore the board, how to get what you want with your communication skills, and the way in which you're showing up, the impact that you're having in your role, your business, and in your life. So give me a shout if you would like to know more. Okay, you take care. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.